Thank you, Dr. Dinesh, for giving me the opportunity to present here. And though fluorescein angiography is now almost 60 years old, first being done in 1961, when the fluorescein dye was used to study the vascularity of the retina. The word specific that has come into the topic means that there is some problem with fluorescein angiography now, and it has got limitations. The most common limitation is the fear of injection to the patient. The patient lands up sometimes with almost 10% patients complain of nausea or vomiting while we do the procedure, or there's an allergy to the dye, which may even go in, though rare, but into anaphylaxis. And another cause is because of the advent of OCT angiography. The indications of FFA are decreasing day by day. OCT angiography definitely gives many advantages over FFA, like it's a three-dimensional, it's a static and better for research. But most common is the most important advantage is that it is totally non-invasive, and it has got no side effects, no fear of injection. But OCT angiography also has its limitations. It can pick only blood flow. So vascular lesions which don't have blood flow, like microaneurysms, are not picked, and it is not dynamic. So leakage, pooling, and staining characteristics of the lesion are missed. Again, a small examination window of 10 to 12 millimeters only. And so they were studying whole or even a small part of retina is very cumbersome, and it's very difficult to use in uncooperative patients or in patients who are unable to fixate properly. The procedure that we are following generally nowadays in our hospital is an oral fluorescein angiography, which was also being reported quite early as 1979 and has shown to give us good quality images with the recent cameras that have been introduced into the market, though I have no financial interest in this. And we have done this type oral fluorescein angiography in many patients. What you do is you give the oral dye 25 milligrams per kilogram body weight. This dye is dissolved in 30 milliliter of sugar-free juice, which is followed by another 30 milliliter of juice without the dye. And then angiograms are taken at regular intervals. It has also got its own limitations, but this is another option that some people can follow that. So going on to the specific indications, so starting with the optic disc, FFA has no role in the diagnosis and management of pseudopapilledema or true papilledema. It has got no role in the diagnosis and management of optic atrophy. So there is no need to do FFA in these conditions, but it may sometimes differentiate between disc collaterals and disc neovascularization in doubtful cases. And sometimes it's valuable in the diagnosis and assessment of disc abnormalities and disc tumors. So this is just pictures to show the difference, like the disc collaterals, they won't leak, the margins will be quite easily visible, but in disc neovascularization, they generally leak, the margins are fuzzy, and with the dynamic angiography, you can see that the leakage increases with time. And this is another case of disc angioma, which was diagnosed, which was differentiated into a disc angioma by using fluorescein angiography, which showed fast entry of dye into the lesion and then fast emptying of the lesion also. Again, another specific indications, the most commonly used indications include in the retinal vascular disease, where we study analytically the retinal circulation, and it may detect vascular abnormalities like infarction, capillary closure, edema, and new vessel formation. And especially in the management of diabetic retinopathy, especially if it is a recurrent disease, FFA is indicated. Also for study of the peripheral retinal vascular disease, peripheral ischemia, you need to have a FFA. The OCT angiography won't give you that picture. So these are just a few pictures. If you plan to do laser for a diabetic macular edema, you need to differentiate whether it's a focal macular edema or a diffuse macular edema. And for this, you have to do a fluorescein angiography. With fluorescein angiography, you can pick up microaneurysms and which tend to leak in the later phases. And in diffuse macular edema, you'll see a large area of leakage from the capillary bed itself. And here you do a grid laser instead of doing a focal laser. Again, you can make out ischemic macula, though you can do it with the OCT angiography also, but with FFA, you get a clearer picture of an ischemic macula present, and you can prognosticate the management of these type of cases. Again, capillary non-perfusion, if it is there, you have to sometimes do a PRP even in an early cases if there is an extensive capillary non-perfusion. In this case, this was a PDR with a large area of capillary non-perfusion. You can go ahead without even the FFA also, but in this case, it was a case of a severe NPTR with a large area of non-perfusion, capillary non-perfusion, and you may plan to do a pan-retinal photocoagulation in this patient to prevent it from going into a worse disease. Again, to pick up subtle neovascularization, if you see this patient in the fundus picture, hardly you can see the new vessels, but when you do a FFA, you pick up much more new vessels. And again, for subtle NVDs, in this case, you can a small NVD can be picked up, and in this case, again, a very subtle NVD, though it was a large NVD, could be picked up by the OCT angiography, but just on seeing the fundus, we were not able to pick up the true extent of the NVD which was there. Again, for wide field angiography, you can do with the fluorescein angiographies. And one important indication these days in the doing FFA in diabetic retinopathy is a recurrent disease, and you can, if the disease is again recurring, you can pick up peripheral lesions, you can pick up peripheral ischemia and do laser. Even for diabetic macular edema, if some people have suggested, like you can do a peripheral laser to non-perfused retina in cases of retinal recurrent macular edema. Again, in vascular occlusions, CRVO, you can differentiate between ischemic and non-ischemic, like in these patients. The right eye, on the left side, it's a non-ischemic CRVO, and on the right side, it's a non-ischemic CRVO. Though you can make it out to some extent on seeing the fundus picture also, but you get a true picture when you do a fundus fluorescein angiography. Again, in the BRVO, you can get the right amount of non-perfusion. In this patient, there was no non-perfusion, so you don't need to do anything, just to observe this patient. But if it is a poor perfusion, you may tend to do a scatter laser, sectoral scatter laser here. Again, for picking up new vessels, subtle new vessels, you can do a fluorescein angiography in branch retinal vein occlusions. For macular BRVO, if you plan to do a grid laser, you can pick up the area of ischemia by doing a fluorescein angiography and do a laser in that area. The pediatric indications, I think Dr. Diksha is going to cover this topic in detail, but there are some specific indications where you do a FFA, like in vasculopathies, in Coats disease, in Leber's, aneurysms in Irwan, in Fever. I think I will skip this. Dr. Diksha will take over this, but you can pick up peripheral ischemia or the leaking aneurysms in these cases. Now coming to the macular disease, I think OCT angiography has taken over the management of macular disease from fundus fluorescein angiography. I think, but in some cases, like in central serous choroidopathy, a dynamic angiography is important to pick out the hotspots. For management of CNVM, I think OCTA is now more useful. For CME and for JFT, again, I think OCTA has now replaced the fluorescein angiography as such. So in CSR, you can see a smokestack appearance. You can see in the early phases, there will be a pinpoint leak, which may give you which may increase with time in size as well as in intensity. And you can have either a smokestack pattern or you can have a ink blot pattern of leakage in central serous choroidopathy. Again, another patient with a smokestack pattern. This time the dye is coming down. This we call a downward smokestack pattern. For CNVM, as I told you, now the OCT angiography gives you better information in managing CNVM patients. But again, if you don't have an access to a OCT angiography, you can do a fluorescein angiography. That will give you again that will give you an idea of a classic or a non-classic CNVM as such. For RAP lesions also can be picked up if you do a fluorescein angiography. Again, a classic and a non-classic can be differentiated. For macroaneurysms, you can pick up macroaneurysms. If the hemorrhage is too big, you can macroaneurysm usually shines through. So I think it will be covered later by another speakers. But you need to do a dynamic angiography in uveitis patients. So FFA becomes more important rather than OCTA here in managing these patients. Again, for ocular tumors, it differentiates between various tumors like choroidal melanomas, hemangiomas, metastatic carcinomas, and angiomatosis retinae, because more than the angiographic features, it is the rate of flow of dye into the tumors which give you a better information and better differentiation between the different tumors. Like in choroidal melanoma, you may see early double circulation, and which may later show later staining. Choroidal hemangioma gives you a patchy hyperfluorescence, which again may increase in later phases. Metastasis give you hyperfluorescence in the later phases. It will give you hypofluorescence earlier. And again, in specific indications like in the presence of media opacities like asteroid hyalosis, where you can't see the retina, you can again do a fluorescein angiography and get a clearer picture of what is happening below. Thank you. Thanks for, again, I thank Dr. Dinesh for giving me this opportunity to present here. Thank you.